and the time to spend time with them is in the winter. And so the further up they nest, the later they come. So we have some very cool, like a cool, rare-ish gull that you can see here with some effort in the day is Iceland gull, we used to call it Thayer's gull, and they're very high Arctic nesters, and they don't arrive till November. Herring gull is more, is a little bit lower latitudinally. They get here in October. Glaucous winged gull, you might get that's another little bit lower, Washington State, you might get them, and very first one end of September maybe. So winter is just like winter is the time for ducks, winter is the time for gulls, winter is also the time for raptors.
I've forgotten the question.
I asked him when's the best time to learn the diversity of seagulls that we have around here. It was
So
very
the answer is
fancy.
winter.
Wow.
Great.
Well, and incidentally, there's a Franklin skull that is hanging out, I guess, on the beach right now. It arrived like last week, and it's probably one of the easier gulls to identify because it has a black hood on its face.
Oh, it still has the black head even in the winter.
I think it's not
Really?
as dark and rich, but it's still kind of attached, noticeable bird.
Yeah, no, opposite the Home Depot area or further down?
It's right by wharf number
So
2,
they're
right?
talking
It's been
about
going back and forth.
times of year to,
What beach you named?
oh.
Del Monte Beach.
Del Monte Beach.
Del Monte Beach.
Right by wharf number 2, where you can cross the ocean on dead anchovies right now.
Should we officially get started?
We sure can.
Awesome. Well, hi everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging in there with us and coming to be here for our Meet Monterey Audubon Society panel tonight. We've got most of our board here, and we can go ahead and do introductions. I think I stole it from you, Blake, because I think you usually introduce and say hello to everybody.
I think I've already talked too long now. All right,
So I am Shannon Connor, the Executive Director for Monterey Audubon Society, and I've been with Monterey Audubon for about, is it 2 months now? About 2 months. And I will have people go along, see their name, what their role is with Monterey Audubon Society, and the only audience participation that I got from our newsletter and Facebook polls was to talk about what our favorite bird was and why, or one of our favorite birds. So I'll ask you guys to cover that in your introduction. So I'm kind of all of the things. I'm the only staff person for Monterey Audubon Society, and so I help out with all the things in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. I'm supporting this wonderful board of volunteer board that helps us run. And I think one of my favorite birds is the surf scoter. I remember learning when I worked at the aquarium, off the back deck of the aquarium, what the surf scoters looked like, and I could always pick them out by their bright beak, and that was one of the first birds that I felt super confident IDing all the time for guests back there. So, and it's one of our subject species for Sea Watch, which is going on right now, which you'll hear more about later. Pam, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next, you're next in the line.
So my name is Pam Cole. I have been an Audubon board member, lucky enough to be part of the chosen group for a couple of years now. I grew up in Central California in an agricultural community, so I had pigeons when I was a kid. So that kind of hooked me with birds. I always loved birds. I would say to you that the favorite bird that I have at this time, I don't think I'm going to be swayed by not having this bird as
your role with our organization. You are on the fundraising committee.
Yes, I'll do anything to help raise money for Audubon, because Audubon has so many projects that we need to fund. We've only just begun to hit the basics, so we have so much interest and outreach on the peninsula. We need to really step up our efforts to increase revenue, to bring more funding and support to the birds of the peninsula. So I'm really interested in that.
Awesome. And Pam also helps with our like HR background, behind the scenes, that kind of stuff as
Anything
well.
I can do, anything that I can do to help is something I would love to help with.
Awesome. And go ahead, Carol.
All right, I'm Carol Greenstreet, and I've also been on the board about 2 years. I'm ostensibly marketing and public relations, which means I work some on the website, trying to write articles for newspapers and so forth, and get our awareness out. I also lead field trips. I led a field trip this morning, actually, a beginning birder field trip with Virginia Tremont down at Laguna Grande, and it was really fun. It was really a really nice field trip. So that's some of the stuff I like to do. Also, what was I say? So I've lost my train of thought.
Favorite bird?
Point Lobos docent.
Oh.
Yes, I'm also a Point Lobos docent. Oh, and my spark bird. I was going to say my spark bird. Sorry, is the common loon. So I grew up in New Hampshire, and so I always saw common loons in their breeding plumage, and you'd hear them. My parents had a cabin on a lake when we were older, and you'd hear them at night, and that spooky sound coming over the water, and you'd see the parents with the chicks on their backs and stuff. It was just absolutely fabulous. And so when I moved out here, I only saw them in non-breeding plumage, and actually one day I actually did see one in breeding plumage. It's like, what are you doing here now? So that's always been really fun. And so I like doing field trips. I like going out birding. I do some traveling, and just generally enjoy learning about birds.
So true. Hey everybody, I'm Amanda Priest. I am the editor of the Little Sanderling newsletter. If you get that digital newsletter once a month, I help put that together with Shannon's help now, of course. And then I'm on the conservation committee. I'll chair that monthly meeting. I've been on the board probably, at least involved since like 2018. And then favorite bird, I always say common murre, M-U-R-R-E. They're the ones that look kind of like penguins. A lot of them flying past Seawatch right now. They're just amazing. They're in the same family as puffins. They're deep diving birds, but they're very polite. My former career was in captive animal husbandry, so I worked at the aquarium with birds. I worked at zoos with birds and in wildlife rehabilitation. And murres are just very polite. They do not want to attack you like most other birds do. They're just very sweet and polite. And anyway, so it's always a joy to have murres around. So they're one of my favorites. How about you, Robert?
Hi, I'm Robert Korn. I'm the treasurer of Monterey Audubon, and I've been with Monterey Audubon 28 years. And maybe some of you know I'm going to be relinquishing my duties as treasurer as of the first of the year and turning them over to Fred. But I'd like to say that it's just been an incredible experience working and seeing the development of this organization over these years, and just the most wonderful people that I've met throughout this whole time. I'm a blacksmith in my profession. I've been hammering iron and steel for about 35 years out in Carmel Valley, and I'm retired from that. But my passion is birds. And I have to say, I don't have any one specific bird. I just can't do that. But I will say one specific group, and that's the shorebirds. I love shorebirds, and I love watching them, and just they always give me so much of a thrill. And also because you can see them right there in front of you on the street. They're not up in a tree, when you get a stiff neck, trying to find the darn thing.
A mile out to sea.
But in any event, like I said, I've been with the organization a long, long time, and I've seen quite a change as it's changed with personnel and people and that sort of thing. But it's just been a real privilege and honor to work with the board, the various boards that we've had over the years, and just to see so many really fun people. Birders are always fun, no matter how much you do. It's just a great experience out there. I'm trying to think of some other things I can say that's complimentary, but I think I'll let them all talk about themselves.
Thanks, Robert. president, Monterey Audubon, and have been for 15 years. Happily so for the most part. My favorite bird, really easy for me, is the bearded vulture. And you
It's
know,
not a gull.
it's not. A gull. No, and they're so cool, not just for the way they look, but for what they do. So they're a condor-sized vulture that lives in the old world, in the really high mountains of Eurasia and Africa. And they have beards, they have these really kind of long, pendulous black mustaches and beards. And they have an electric red ring of skin around the eye, and these white, piercing white eyes. And these big 9-foot long arched wings, like a sickle really, and this long wedge-shaped tail. And their behavior up there, 8 or 10,000 feet, is the way they forage, is they specialize in bones. The bones of any big dead mammal. So they find the bone, and they take the bone up to great height, and they release it onto a rock face, shattering the bone and scattering the marrow out on the rock face. And they come down and they gobble up the marrow. That's their whole evolutionary niche. They've been known to do it also with turtles. They can find turtles.
no.
But it's documented all the way back, and features really big in like the ancient Greco-Roman texts, because they were widespread in Europe in those days. But it's the way it looks and its behavior, and also the places where you see it, and way up high. And I know your favorite is immature gulls.
That's right. That's for sure gulls. My name is Fred Hochstetter. I've been on the board for, 3 years, maybe 4 years, something like that. I have organized field trips, and I will stop doing that and start to be the treasurer on the board. So that would be my role. My daytime gig is teaching geology and oceanography over at NBC. Students often ask me what my favorite rock is, and it's just as sort of a stumping question, I'm just as stumped with that question as I am with this one, and I often tell students and try to teach them and show them that it's the relationship between the rocks, it's the way that they occur and how they occur near each other, which is really what we can extract the story of the Earth and the geologic history of the area from. And so it's really the relationship between them and how they occur together. This summer, I was lucky enough to go to the Galapagos, and we talked about our favorite birds in the Galapagos, and for me, it was something really similar. It was the finches, the Darwin finches. Not because any one of those Darwin finches is a particularly striking bird. None of them take bones and smash them against rocks, and none of them fly like a shearwater, which I'll never get tired of watching, or none of them soar through the air like raptors. But because they're hard to tell apart, and the reason they're hard to tell apart is because they are speciating. They are, and for what they represent as recognition of birds evolving through natural selection. So that represents my favorite bird and sort of what I'm about. The Galapagos, by the way, delivers. Everything you've heard about it is true.
I'm Jan Scott, and I'm in charge of keeping the database for our members/donors, and also in charge of scholarships. I joined Audubon in 1982, and soon after they asked me to be secretary. And so I've served different positions, and there was a short time period, a couple of years when I wasn't on the board, but basically I've been on the board ever since. You just can't get rid of me.
42 years.
Really? Okay. I'll just tell you what kind of got me interested in birds. I was raised in the Central Valley, and in those days, in the 40s and 50s, there were lots of geese that would fly over to, from wherever to the wetlands that were there then. And they would be in this wonderful V formation, and you could hear them honk as they went over. And that was a real common occurrence. So we must have been our ranch must have been in their flight path. And I miss seeing that. But anyway, I guess if you say I have a favorite bird, it's flying geese.
I'm Ty Russell. I've been helping out with the urban school monitoring projects and Sea-Watch, and I joined, I think it was in January of this year. And yeah, I also led my first field trip recently down to Sea-Watch, and it was super fun, so I'm hoping to do some more of those. If I had to pick a bird, I would pick a pair of birds, which is the scrub jay and the acorn woodpecker, because those are birds that I recognized before I became a birder. That's kind of the calls are the sound of my childhood, I think. So that's what I enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about, or have the board help me talk a little bit about our programs that we put on. We've got a lot of different things that we do all the time. Fred mentioned that he is our field trip coordinator. Do you want to talk about some of the different field trip opportunities? I'm putting you on the spot, or I
Sure.
will do it.
Sure. In February, we're going to have a gull field trip.
See what I did earlier? I got you guys really excited.
So we're going to learn from one of the experts about gulls. If you look at the Macaulay, one of the ways I try to learn about gulls is I'll open up eBird and I'll look at all the pictures, and the ones that are really valuable, the ones that are really nice, in focus, a beautiful flight, and you can see the feathers and the tail and all that, and the bill close up there. A lot of them are your photos. So we're looking forward to that. One of the things that I'm most happy with that I've done in terms of field trips is create a partnership with the Big Sur Land Trust. So every year we have a series of birding excursions to the Big Sur Land Trust properties, and I feel like I'm supporting two organizations that do really great work. So we go to Middledorf and Glendevin Ranch and Marks Ranch out on Highway 68. They're all very different and offer very different things. One of the things we'd like to do in the future is go see if we can hear some owls in Middledorf. Middledorf looks just like Robinson Canyon area to me, and Robinson Canyon is a probably nationally recognized owling location. And
7 species.
yeah.
Right there driving up to San Lucia.
So, and Williams Canyon, the canyon that leads up sort of towards Middledorf, looks just like it. Redwoods in there, and it looks like a great place. So we'd like to expand in that direction. Big Sur Land Trust loves partnering with us, and so that's one of my sort of happy places. And the other one is probably some of the things that Amanda has been instrumental in getting going. It's really emphasizing these beginning birding walks that in many cases, probably most, Amanda does around Laguna Grande or the Solmar, and it's just really fun to bring somebody out who is just at that learning how to use their binoculars, and to show them some birds and talk about the names of the birds.
The one we did this morning was actually a joint win with the Monterey Regional Park District, which was really good since Laguna Grande is MPRP. And so that was another one, nice one, of getting a cooperation between different organizations. I was beginning birding, and I had a whole pile of binoculars, and some people didn't have them. And so again, it was really good to get some people interested. The one guy, he had binoculars, and it was this third week of birding. One of the guys is actually out from Salt Lake City, spending a week in California, and he was able to tick off some live birds right there. Black phoebe, first bird.
Wow.
Live bird, isn't that great?
That's such a good feeling.
It was really good. I'm like, okay, what do you have? He goes, where's the just in fact chickadee? There's a red bush tit, and it was great because then actually everybody there could help him. It was really fun. So thanks for these wonderful bird field trips and other ones. And if you have ideas, or if you know someone who'd be interested, or something you're interested in, I've got a number of photographer friends that are really good at bird photography. I'm trying to convince them to do a bird photography field trip. I don't know if that's of interest to anybody, but try to get some ideas for types of things that you would like to participate in as well. And so we're trying to expand our field trips.
Amanda, can we talk about a different type of field trip that we do? That's another partnership?
The
Birdability?
Yeah. So, we also, in addition to the monthly beginning birding walks, which are really good for bringing in new folks, we also do a monthly birdability walk. So those are birding field trips to ADA accessible locations. So if you have any friends who've been like, I guess I just can't be a birder anymore, like, that's not the case. Lucky House birds are basically everywhere, and there's quite a few parks. They're not as many as there should be, and we're constantly having to kind of advocate whenever Parks and Rec Commission is redoing a master plan, or if we want to do a new park, the old Capitol site, what's going to be there. If you're going to do any trails, make sure a portion of them are ADA accessible, please. That's a really critical component for all of our mental health for our community. So the birdability walks, and we also have Young Birders Club once a month, and beginning Young Birders and birdability are all free and always have been every month of the year. That's the word.
We also, for birdability trips, we also go to people at their locations. We've done a couple where we've gone to, and this was before I started, but we've gone to like residential communities, nursing homes, retirement homes, and done birding with people there where they're at. So even if they can't get out of there, if whatever reason they can't get out, we come to them and help them learn how to bird and enjoy the nature that's there where they're at, which is really cool.
I think that's that's the key feature of birding, is that you can go to a nursing home in Lower Carmel Valley and sit with someone for an hour or two and show them 24 species of birds. And that person, so many of us, not even in a nursing home, just living your life, you just think, oh, the birds are singing. You have no clue the mosaic of different species, how they're living and what they're doing. The few that are there all the time, the resident, the few that are only there for a month or two. And anytime you can open people's eyes to that, it really can, it can add a dimension of meaning to their life.
I have something to say about birding. I saw an advertisement, and this is before I was part of Audubon, and I thought about a field trip out of Lost Landing, and I thought, I think I would like that. So I went, and it was not just the birds, but it was the people. I thought they were so friendly to wanting to share their knowledge in a non-lecturing way, share their scopes so that you get a better look, and the broad range of ages. I like that, the whole thing. So can I join?
That's awesome. That's something that I'm really excited about leading us through the future, is building the birding community and building community through birding. We have a number of different programs that we've just talked about that do just that. And I forgot to tell the rest of the board this, but I put in 2 grant applications this week to support those programs, Birdability, Beginner Birding, and Young Birders Club, over the next year or so to try to help fund those and our time in those, stipending trip leaders when we can, so that it makes it accessible for all, both on the trip leader end and on the participant end. Another community sorry, I can't speak anymore. Another community building program that we have that is inadvertently community building that's happening right now continuously is our Sea-Watch program, which we have Allison in the house tonight, who is our Sea-Watch scientist that's doing doing the bird count. Do you want to take it for a minute or two, Allison?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually wrote some notes because I feel like most of the things that I say all day are there's things about Loma, there's a Bigfoot at the buoy. Yes, I've seen whales today. By this point in the day, my brain's already shutting down anyway, so bear with me. One of the things, I guess, this year that I've appreciated about my own approach to Sea-Watch is trying to make an elevator speech that draws people in, because we get so much foot traffic there, and I think that the Sea-Watch is a very valuable outreach opportunity for Monterey Audubon. And
this is at Point Pinos in Pacific Grove, if you aren't aware. Sorry to jump in.
And it runs from November 1st to December 15th, sunrise to sunset, so come out and see me. But a lot of people stop by, they see us with the spotting scopes, and they're like, migratory birds, and over the course of the season, I'll see 100,000 loons. And by doing that, we have a conversation that started about whales that's turned into birds and Monterey Audubon. And that's, to me, a huge power of the Sea Watch. It's also really important to get a record, which is what migration accounting is. You're taking a census, you're taking vitals, you're getting a record of bird populations, when they're moving, why they're moving, how many are moving. Birds are not doing well right now generally, so we need to be collecting those sorts of numbers. And yeah, it's the only land-based sea watch with a standardized count season on the entire Pacific coast. As far as I know, because of that, it's the only fall spot that gets standardized numbers on Pacific loon migration anywhere. And it's also the only count spot on the Pacific coast that gets fall migration numbers on surf spitters. So that's a pretty big deal. And especially put in context that these species of birds both nest and mature in places that we can't really get to. So it's valuable from that, and especially with talk of offshore wind development, these are things that we need to be considering, because a lot of these seabirds are migrating at altitudes and distances where they could be negatively impacted by that. And as the populations are already vulnerable, we need to be considering how that vulnerability could be increasing, and also just getting information on what conditions they fly, what is the wind doing, what heights are they flying at. And for the 3 years that I've done Sea Watch, I've done that. I try and make notes of like, how high are the loons flying when it's this windy? Would that be within rotor sweep? It's an interesting lens to watch migration through, but I'm glad that I have the opportunity to do it. I think it's really important to the Monterey birding community as well. It's like a retreat for us in a lot of ways, and it's been very evident in the last couple weeks how much of a retreat it's been. We need those spaces to be mindful and be present and to pay attention and just to embrace wonder. I think it's a sentiment that we don't really have in our day-to-day lives. It's something that we get too busy to do. And at Sea Watch, that's kind of all we do. So I really appreciate it for that, not just for us that are regulars at the Sea Watch, but that we can share that with people that come by. It's one of those really rare, potent spaces where we can conduct scientific research, where we can share nature with the general public and open windows and build relationships, because that's how people are going to care about conservation, is through relationships. And it's a space where we can also have a meditative spot to enjoy migration and watch nature. So I think the Sea Watch is a super, super important program, and you guys, Monterey Audubon, you have built a really beautiful standardized count and outreach with the docents and everything, and I am excited to see it continue to grow.
Thank you.
So if you're inspired by that at all, you can go stop by and see Allison anytime, dawn till dusk, until December 15th. She's out there every day but Sunday, and we've got other people out there on Sundays, so stop by and check out the whales and birds that are there. On the topic of tracking different animal species, does any of you want to speak about our Belay program?
I don't mind. I was looking over to
Anybody else?
Anybody else? So our Black Oyster Catcher monitoring project is actually a recent paper that was published in Marine Ornithology using all of our data plus San Luis Obispo Coast, San Mateo, quite a few of the coastal chapters were involved in this program that Audubon, California initiated back in like 2011, and it was originally just going to be this, let's get some baseline numbers on these black oyster catchers, like how many are there, what's going on out there. California was always seen kind of as like lame, habitat. Their stronghold is kind of like Alaska through Washington, and that's kind of where a lot of research has been done on them. But so this initial census, 2011, to 2012, we got some numbers, and Audubon, California then wrote some stuff about, that about a quarter of the global population of black oyster catchers is in California. So we're not just like fringe habitat. We got some good stuff going on. We got some cool rocks and stuff. And also the people who were initially just out there looking at oyster catchers, counting how many, they're starting to think, well, what's going on with their population? Are they doing good? Are they going down? What's the story? So then everybody started watching individual birds and tracking, when do the eggs lay, when do they hatch, when do chicks hatch or fledge, how are they all doing? So it kind of snowballed, I guess is the word, because now there's like 60 plus like oyster catcher monitors, and we're all like madly obsessed with our pair, right? So I monitor MP1 over at Asilomar, and every year it's like, you know, in the 8 years I monitored them, 2018, summer 2018 is the only year our chicks, we watched them hatch and we watched them like fledge, like they lived to fledging, and it's so rare. No other year has MP1 done that, and that's, you know, none of these birds are tagged, so there's a little bit of an assumption that these birds, because they're monogamous and they're territorial, same pair on the same rock, doing this every year, but you just really feel for them, and so now we have this huge group of people on the Monterey Peninsula that are just kind of crazy oyster catcher monitors and proud of it. So we've got the Monterey Peninsula territories, there's about 16 in that. Pebble Beach has some monitored pairs, and then Point Lobos, and then, you know, as our program grew, we ended up getting some seasonal staff people, and one of them, Jennifer, she lives up like in Aptos or Freedom or somewhere up north, and so she started monitoring the birds that are at natural bridges, and then going up through Wilder Ranch and up to Pescadero, because, you know, the middle part of Monterey Bay is all sand, no oyster catchers there, that's where all the snowy plovers hang out, that's a whole other story, but oyster catchers are all on the edges, where it's rocky again, and they're also pretty tightly affiliated with marine protected areas, so I feel like that's always a good, like, element for like grants or like outreach, certainly, because we do outreach when you're out there staring at the scope. Someone's gonna walk up and say, "What you doing? You're looking at a whale, you're looking for otters, oyster catchers," and then they get the whole spiel about oyster catchers. So yeah, so there's been 2 papers that have been published with this kind of data that's been collected from all these coastal chapters over the last 10 years. The most recent one was in marine ornithology, and it's ongoing. I don't, you know, foresee anybody stopping monitoring their employees, but it tugs at your heartstrings, because like I said, like the pair we monitored, they're laying eggs every year. They're not like not trying. They're trying to have kids, and but you know, whether it's predation, higher rising seas and higher storms coming higher up on the beaches or up on the rocks, that's becoming a problem in the spring. Yeah, a lot of these birds still don't. You watch the chicks and then they go missing, and sometimes it's hard to retain oyster catcher volunteers. Nancy Bryson, she's a Point Lobos host, and she had to stop after a couple of years because she's like, it's too sad, they always just die. And you're like, it is really hard. We have to track this stuff, like Allison's saying, you have to have baseline data to show that things are hard or challenging. And so Nancy came and monitored nest boxes with me instead, which has a higher success rate than chicks living. They all get eaten after they leave the nest, but it's fine. You have to see them live for a moment versus the oyster catchers. But anyway, so we all found happiness nowadays with our projects. But the oyster catchers are amazing.
I'll just interject too that's kind of that origin and the point of Audubon, how Audubon started was the first conservation movement. It started in 1900 during the days of Teddy Roosevelt, because all of these big bird populations were facing extinction because their feathers were used in fashion. So egrets, herons, terns were facing extinction because they were so popular in the clothing industry. And these groups of people, actually mostly women-led in those days, got together and formed Audubon societies to write their congressmen or whatever. But the example of Monterey Audubon and the Floyds is a great example of how that plays out, because you have people interested in birds and birding. Then you have people interested in studying the birds, what's going on with the birds. Then you have all these people out there watching these birds trying to nest on a coastal bluff, and every day 20 tourists come and walk right over the nest, and so the nest fails. And then 5 years later, you're sitting there watching these birds incubating, and a tourist has his drone going right over the nest, so the parents are constantly having to abandon their nest to defend the territory against the drone. So what happens then? Start talking to the city authorities. Can we close access at certain times? Can we do something about the disturbance of these birds? Then you have to set aside meeting after meeting, a meeting with city staff and city leaders trying to get them to do something. And after many, many years and changes in city leadership, we finally negotiated an MOU with the city of Pacific Grove just so we could go out and try and erect a protective barrier around the nests so the nests wouldn't abandon. But that's the straight line from being interested in something and inspired by it and loving it, wanting to learn about it, gather data, and then actually doing something to try and stop the, the erosion of nature itself, right? The erosion of biodiversity, right? And that's what these Audubon chapters have always been about. And the kind of the fight for the existential heart of what an Audubon chapter is was always like, well, this is just a bird club. You guys just like to go out and look at birds. What good are you doing? Which we do. But if you aren't motivated, you can't be motivated if you don't care about what you're looking at. And this is a group of mostly grassroots, more formal and structured now, people who have created an infrastructure where they can put their passion into action to try and do something, some of the time, to help the resource. And the Black Oyster Catcher is a great example of that genesis.
Thanks for that, conclusion at the end. That totally is a good way to
I
wrap it
got
up.
you.
Yeah,
I got you.
thank you, thank you.
The Black Oyster Catcher program, along with our Snowy Plover Guardian program, our Sea Watch program, all of those are done in partnership with other organizations as well. We couldn't do it without them. So I think those 3 programs involve the Coastal Monument, the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History, Baynet, Point Lobos Volunteers, we've got California State Parks, I'm missing others, I'm sure I'm missing others. So other organizations that help us.
Hopkins Marine Station.
Hopkins Marine Station that help us do these things and make our collective action bigger. Collective action is something that people talk about a lot in conservation things, is that we need to all work together to do this, and that's where we're actually doing this, and we're working with other organizations. So it's not just here with our small 1 staff person, 10 board member organization. We can make a big difference. We also have our conservation committee that helps talk through things like that. We meet once a month and talk about different projects going on, different things that the community has brought to us. And I imagine that that's somewhere where those projects started back in the day, is with our conservation committee, and they were able to build programs to help support those.
And you've got Kai with the Airman's Goals.
Yeah.
So the Airman's Goals is another one of those programs.
Yeah, the Herman's Goals. Kai, do you want to say anything about Herman's Goals?
Well, I
You can
share
pass it to
briefly
somebody else too.
what it is.
Yeah.
We've got a really amazing story of these gulls that breed on this one island off of Baja California, and I think about 20 years ago they suddenly started breeding or established a colony on the McDonald's in Seaside, which is no longer with us, but they were able to successfully scatter to other buildings and rooftops on Broadway. So you know where other brewing company is. We've basically got the only Heerman's gull colony in the entire United States right there in Seaside. And if you've ever visited a seabird colony, you would know that they are really stinky and they are really noisy. And understandably, people are not very happy about having a colony on the rooftop. So we're doing our best to try and do some outreach and education on how special these birds are. And we're also doing a monitoring program where we're attempting to count the pairs, the nests, the eggs that are laid and hatched and then eventually fledge. And I can't remember how many years of data we have, but it's probably quite a few.
4 or 5 maybe up in drone imagery. Which, side note, Heerman's Gulls don't care about drones. It's not like universal that all birds hate drones. A lot do, but the Heerman's Gulls, we have a professional drone pilot who comes to survey on rooftops because you can't see them from the street level. I really love those Heerman's Gulls, and they just look up and they're like, "Bark, bark, 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 bark." The Western Gull.
Yeah, the one-
So
the
they'll
Western
come out
Gulls.
from like a mile away and come over to attack this drone. It's still blown away by that, those gulls. The differences between species, not just like all gulls.
And I think we're especially lucky because personally I think the Heerman's gull is one of the most beautiful gulls that we have. So
And you think about the implications of that, your whole global population nests on one island in the Gulf of California called Isla Rasa, right? If you have an invasive predator, sea level rise, or the wrong dynamics, all of a sudden,
Oil spill.
that whole population is jeopardized. Well, lo and behold, a small satellite population of the, and if you guys don't know what it looks like, it's really cool. The whole body is smoky gray. The whole body is smoky gray, not white.
Price gotcha.
Oh yeah, there you go. But now all of a sudden, there's this satellite population that is very slowly growing in fits and starts of maybe 50 to 100 birds that is trying to survive on commercial rooftops and seaside. So how do we handle that? Well, we gotta understand the population, see how many there are, what are they doing? Can we build a different place for them to nest that they'll go to that's less controversial or difficult for landowners? Well, maybe not, because now this population for 30 years is evolved and trained to look for rooftops. So how do you negotiate relationships with these tenants and with these landlords where they just won't go up there and off, which happens sometimes? Pretty remarkable challenge.
Crazy situation. But it's happening. There was an article in the National Audubon magazine about that happening with terns in Florida. So it's not like, we're not a unique situation. It's happening more and more with sea level rise, where seabirds and shorebirds who nest on a beach are like, well, there's a tar and gravel roof up there. It kind of looks like a beach, and give that a try. But then the other babies are trundling off the rooftops, and chaos ensues. So we're having to really navigate strange waters nowadays because of the climate change and all the impacts we've had on the environment. How many pairs are there?
I think it's,
I thought it was like 30 pairs.
Yeah, 30 pairs, and that's one thing we're trying to figure out is it stable, growing, or shrinking? It was 1996 the first pair showed up. So we've gone from, in 25 to 30 years, we've gone from 2 pairs to 30 pairs, and that's in spite of a lot of mortality events, in spite of the McDonald's burning down that they had an active nest on. So that part is encouraging, and that kind of, I was talking at the very beginning about the resilience and adaptability of gulls in general. So, in spite of how hard it is for them, I do have some hope that in my lifetime anyway, they will persist as part of the community somehow.
Yeah. So before I get into all the 8 billion different ways that you can help support Monterey Audubon Society, does anybody have any questions for us? Since that was the whole premise of us being here. I had just the one on all the people that I solicited that aren't here, but if anybody has any questions, we're open for that.
What McDonald's were down?
The new fancy one by the Home
By
Depot and the Staples?
Sure.
Yeah, it used to be, it was a different McDonald's. It burned down completely and they rebuilt it in the same spot.
They also, the gulls had nested, I think the prior year from McDonald's on the spas by the bay, that's like catty corner to the McDonald's. That spas by the bay building now, it has that big seaside sign in front of it now, so welcome to Seaside or whatever, and they nested on that one. And they got, the building owner put a bunch of netting up in the middle of the nesting season. Anyways, so they got evicted from that building, so they've just been kind of booted all around, and they're trying to find like a place to call home.
Seems like other brother would be a great place.
What's that?
Seems like other brother would be a great place.
And he was friendly to them.
If they would
Yeah,
just-
Other Brother has their Pyramid Skull Walker that they release
Oh, yes, that's good.
seasonally. I was asking them about it the other day, and they said they think it's, the gal I was asking said, I think it's on the docket. Don't quote me, but I think it's on the docket. So I might be approaching them to see if we can do some collaborations with them on it. At least a celebration of the Herman Skull with Monterey Audubon Society there or something.
That'd be fun.
Creating a beer named after it or something.
So they've got the Herman Skull Lager already that they've released the last couple of years. So.
Well, we should be able to get some sort of cut from that or something.
That would be fantastic if anybody wants to approach them about that.
Surfrider does that with blue beers.
So, yeah.
So, I think they would do something like that.
So Surfrider does their blue beers mixers. That's something that we are thinking about trying to do something similar to that through the spring and summer, doing some, I haven't come up with a name for it yet, if anybody has an idea. Doing some networking events like that at a couple different local places, Hops and Fogs, Samino Wine Bar, different places, that they would give us a portion of the proceeds from the evening. Other brother, I have not talked to them specifically about it yet, but I'm hoping to. Which is a way that you can support us in the future if you watch out for that. Amanda said mentioned that she's the editor of our little Sanderling, our monthly Eve newsletter. Occasionally we do a mid-month blast as well, but it's mostly just a once a month thing that you get from us. If you're not subscribed to that already, there's a yellow paper on the desk over there that you can write your email address down on, and we'll get that to you. Fred was talking about the field trips, the different field trips that we coordinate. We do all kinds of different ones. We want to continue to do more. General ones, beginning birding, birdability, any other ideas that people might have. We often need trip leaders, or even for our bigger field trips, like Kai's Sea Watch field trip last weekend, we had like 15 people there. I was on it with him, so I could kind of crowd control from the back, but it's super nice to like have a second person there to help hand out binoculars and make sure people know how to use binoculars. You don't have to know how to identify all the birds. Those are different types of volunteer opportunities. But we also have other volunteer opportunities that aren't as flashy and glamorous, at least to some people, but they fit other people's abilities. So we are a business, and we've got all the things that a business needs, like accounting and membership and website help and social media help and all of those different things. Anything that you can think of that you do at a general business, we've got those things that we could definitely use help with as well.
Yes, and we've got Bill Hubick here, who does the our social media guru and stuff, right? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, Bill
Just
helps
once a
with-
week.
Bill helps with our social media stuff. If you ever see the beautiful bird pictures that are on there, he signs them when he posts and does a lot of really great information. Or if I need a bird post, that's not just this is how many loons we saw at Sea Watch today, or whatever. Bill's the one for that. We get some CSUMB service learners on occasion, and as my experience grows with those, it's hit or miss on if they're great or not. We continue to seek those out. We had a service learner a few years ago who was an accountant major. She really liked birds, and her mom said she needed to be an accountant, so that's what she was doing. And we could really use more assistance like that as we continue to grow. We're moving over to QuickBooks. We're getting a payroll service. We've got a donor database, and these are all pretty new to us that we're learning how to use, and could use other people's support if they know how to use them as well. Then there's always the age-old financial support that everybody always needs as a nonprofit. We rely on contributions from the general public, from grants from our members, all of those things to be able to survive and go. I am the only employee that we've got right now. Hopefully that will change someday. I am planning on leading us through some strategic planning phases in the spring. I haven't written a grant about it yet, but I'm about to write a grant to the Community Foundation of Monterey County to support the strategic planning process, so that we can hire a facilitator to come in and walk our board members through the process, so that we come up with a really solid strategic plan to help lead our growth over the next, usually they're written for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I was just now you mentioned that, I feel like birding, like we're all in like a golden age of bird watching. Ed is this nice guy who comes in a lot of my bird walks, and he was saying we're in the golden age, you know, Ed, of optics. Like how never before have optics been lighter and cheaper and clearer. Never before have the resources been so abundant to us. eBird and Merlin, like, and then also the birding community is really growing. So I feel like we've been through so much growth now. There's so much, I don't know, just even more potential there, because there's so many people who want to get into birding. They all recognize how important it is for our happiness and health. And anyways, it's just a really exciting time, I think, to like get into birding and become a birder, or even bird conservation, like making a lot of leaps and bounds as far as how to process these big data sets like eBird or Maryland Biodiversity Database or GVIF, these big databases that lead to lots of amazing research and discoveries. And anyway, so fun times. That's what I was getting at.
There's a lot of opportunity. So yesterday I was birding with somebody. They had a super lightweight, like $70 scope on just like a little handle. he carries around, and that's how he birds. And I was like, wait a second, how light is, like, this is great. And he has a suction cup that it can mount to his car window, so he doesn't have to get out of the car if he's gonna scare the birds. That he does a lot of car birding where he'll go look for raptors in San Benito County. But Steve Johnston, yes. Yes. The birding community is pretty small. We get to know each other pretty well. And I'm just really excited that you all are here helping support us, and that we can do this panel to introduce you all to the faces behind Monterey Audubon Society, so that you can get to know us. One of my goals for all of our committees right now, we've got our conservation committee, our fundraising committee, our bylaws committee, our membership committee, we have hospitality committee, do we have any other? That's about right. One of my goals is that as we grow, we've got our board members that specialize, field trips as well, that specialize in each of those areas. What? Scholarship committee, yeah. Is that we have 1 or 2 board members on each of those committees, instead of them only being comprised of board members, since we only have 10 of them, that 1 or 2 board members are on them, and we grow them with other volunteers. Commitments for those are like 1 or 2 meetings a month tops, and maybe 1 month has a little more because we're busier. I imagine that hopefully next fall we'll be planning for a fundraiser, that we can have a fundraiser committee, that we have people help solicit in-kind donations for things to raffle off, for things to silent auction in the future. And so we're gonna need all the help that we can get as we move forward to that. That being said, there's a donation box over here that you can make your donation on the way
We'll be
out.
passing it before you leave. You can't leave until we watch all of you.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's not too many of us here, but collective action, right? But yeah, it's 8:23. I think we're gonna actually end on time tonight. Does anybody else have anything that they want to say on the board? Anybody else have any other questions for us before we adjourn for the evening? Oh, we've got a question.
Do
Yeah.
you guys do any field trips like on the water, like kayaks or anything
Ooh.
like that?
We used to go on the Elkhorn sloop boat.
I was gonna say, I went out on Elkhorn Sioux Safari, well, we did a vertical.
The catamaran?
Yeah, the catamaran, we did that, it's not self-powered, it's the catamaran that goes with Elkhorn Sioux, we did it once for birdability and once for Young Birders Club, but birding by kayak would be super cool.
That would be cool.
For sure.
Do you wanna help us figure that out?
I'll go figure it out.
I'll put you on the spot.
Are you a kayaker?
We enjoy kayaking.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
There's a really good group, the Monterey Waterkeeper organization, that's a smaller local nonprofit that's, actually been around a long time, I shouldn't say smaller, but they have 1 staff person, maybe 2 now, but anyways, growing, and they do a lot of really important work on water quality monitoring, and they've done some kayak excursions on the Salinas River, just trying to connect people with their water, their local watershed
We went on
water
one,
sources. Oh, okay, yeah.
It's quite fun.
Yeah,
A lot
and
of
so-
ticks when they go.
Yeah, doing like a team up with them to do birding. I think I sent my partner to go because I wasn't available to go. I'm like, go support Chelsea. She's their executive director.
yeah.
And he said he had a really good time. He was paddling, I think, up the Salinas River, but paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboard. But that would be so cool. I think that's a good idea.
Oh, another, and I almost forgot, another completely different way that you could support us is when we partner with other organizations, like Cheeseman's Ecological Safaris, they have pledged to give us a donation for any Audubon members that go on their safari to.
Right now, we have a special trip that we're doing, expedition to South Georgia Island and Antarctica and the Falkland Islands.
Where the striated carrot.
Yeah.
So they are gonna, any members of our members that go on that safari, they're gonna make a donation to us.
We'd like to give back to local conservation-minded organizations like the Cetacean Society and the Audubon Society. So, any of you guys that join those trips, not only do you get a discount specifically, but we do contribute to these
We went all
amazing
around.
organizations.
We went all around. Awesome. Well, yeah.
Are there any diversity initiatives to widen the pool of birders, specifically with racial and socioeconomic diversity?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So, we do have a couple. We don't have a specific DEI committee, but I would love to have one in the future. If we have anybody who wants to help us chair that committee, I think that would be fantastic. things that we're doing, Amanda talked about the birdability program that we do, which is great. And we also have done one program with Chispa, which we're working on doing more. She actually just, their program coordinator asked me if we could do a weekly thing, and I don't know if we have capacity to do weekly, but we could do every other week or a couple times a month, which is a organization that builds low-income housing, and they provide activities for their residents in that low-income housing. So the particular community that we're working with is out in East Garrison right now, and so kids are bused back and forth to school. There's no school in that community, so they have to go from East Garrison either to Marina or to Salinas to be able to attend school, and it's a lot of migrant families that are in that program as well. So we are able to go to them where they're at and meet them where they're at. One of their board members is a birder, and she connected us, asking if we could help them get more excited about getting in Fort Ord, since they are literally a 5-minute walk from Fort Ord. And so that's something that we're planning on continuing to do. And the the 2 grants that I mentioned that I put in for the Birdability Beginning Birder and Young Birders Club also include translation services, so that we can have bilingual bird walks. And then we're also able to stipend the leaders of those, which I think is a huge important thing to do, to make sure that everybody that needs a stipend to be able to be paid for their work can be paid for their work. And then we also have been working throughout this year on a brochure, a fold-out map and brochure of birds of Monterey County. I think is about what we're going to name it, and we have money funded to translate that as well to target South County as well, with some targeting on South County as well. So we're working on it, probably not as good as any of us would like to be, but we're working on it and we want to get better.
That's awesome.
Anything else? Yeah.
What's membership numbers today, roughly?
Membership numbers, like how many people are active members of Monterey Audubon Society right now? We usually go with, but I think
We're sending out 1,500 of the annual
yeah, we're
reports.
sending out 1,500 annual
1,500
reports.
are going out.
Somewhere in that
It was more
ballpark.
than that, I think, isn't it?
So if you're a member, if you've donated to us, expect the annual report in your mailbox in the next week or so. And if you aren't, you can become a member and you can pick one up from us at our next event. I want to make sure that they get mailed out to people, and I'll have all the extras at our next couple events.
Jen, you have, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say the 1,500 are not active members. You know, those are people that were assigned to us from National Audubon because they live in our area and they get the Audubon magazine.
A chunk of those are, yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably 100 active, meaning they attend meetings, they attend, field trips, they, we see them, but the other people we don't see.
I think I compiled a list of about 85 households that have donated enough to be lifetime members, which currently is a $500 annual, or a $500 one-time donation, which is great the year that we get it. So those recurring donations are the ones that help us a lot more in the long run, just to be brutally honest out there.
Yeah.
I try really hard to be transparent with people and let them know what's going on. Yeah.
People to remove any friction for like people who are walking by the Sea Watch, make it even, like any way we could hook more people to just,
Oh, become a member, you mean?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
What is that?
right, and just like, you think of like adopt a sea otter kind of thing, is there anything we could do that makes them feel a part of it, and something to think about?
So we bought a donation box, and that'll be out at Sea Watch to be able to let people donate in the moment. We have a QR code that goes to our website.
Are we sure we want jar of money, says nothing?
So it's got a lock on it, and I'm really hoping that it stays there, but there's thousands of dollars worth of optics that are out there at any
Yeah.
moment as well. So we'll see what happens.
Where is Sea-Watch?
Sea-Watch is at Point Pinos, so if you're heading down Ocean View Drive past Lover's Point, you get to the golf course, and then there's Crispy Pond, and then the next pullout is Point Pinos, where we have Sea-Watch. There's those little islands off the coast on Google Maps. Somebody named one of them as like Little Norway or something silly like that. I tried really hard to get in and put that as our place of business on Google right now, and I couldn't get it to change. I was trying to make a location on social media as well, so I could tag it, and it wouldn't let me. So maybe someday we can figure out how to get all of those located.
I think we do have in the Sea-Watch box, if you're out there, there's a box that we have lots of information in there, and I believe there's the card, the membership, the little handout brochure for membership and little business cards too. So if you're there and you see somebody and they go, hi, what are you looking at? You'll grab the box and grab the volunteer who's there. And
Even if you're not a volunteer that's out there and you're talking to somebody, like, let them know. Awesome, that's the most that you can do. Collective action, let everybody know we're here. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming and seeing us. Next month we'll have Allison give a Sea-Watch spiel.
yeah.